listen to a panel of speakers, and then during the networking portion of those events, I would meet a handful of people in the crowd, usually the people that are relatively near you or over at the bar, wherever you may be, and they've all been really nice people, but at the end of the day, the majority of those conversations are just small talk. You don't really get those meaningful conversations that you need. So I thought it would be pretty cool if there were a way to maybe research people ahead of time so that I could find out who those people were that I could really make a meaningful connection with while I was at the event. And it turns out I wasn't alone. A friend of mine who has a startup in Wilmington, he's already raised over $1 million, had a similar experience. He was looking for a way to increase his network, broaden his network, and get access to quality resources and quality advice. And that's difficult in a small community like Wilmington, and branching into communities like this one and others obviously has huge benefits. So that is what started me on that journey. My own personal issues that I had trying to find quality connections, and then also the same that my friend had along the way. So I thought of some tools that might make it useful to bootstrap a solution. Now there are some big names up here. Slack obviously is the biggest. Is this thing working? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's working though.
Slack is obviously the biggest and growing every day. And while each of these has merits, I'm a loud talker anyway.
Yeah, you're doing great either way.
So while each of these has merits, they all share one fundamental flaw. They're siloed. They're all built to have communication within businesses or groups and not beyond those walls. That one sounds like it works. So for an entrepreneur, if you're not able to expand your network and grow your community, you're limited in what you can achieve. So how do we expand our network using RTP? Well, the first thing we need to do is to emulate some of the things that make tools like Slack useful. And then what we do is we bring in the real life connection. So instead of going to an event and hoping to find that one person that can help your business while they're crowded by others, we use pre-connections in RTP, where you can research and connect with people ahead of time so that you can make those meaningful connections when you're there in person. And then warm introductions. So imagine being at an event like this one, hearing a pitch, and seeing a company or a startup that you know that you can help that person or know somebody that can help that company get to the next level, and you want to make that connection. So you can make those warm introductions. And lastly, we're no longer limited by geography or siloed within communities where we can continue to expand our network seamlessly into others to accelerate growth and access to human capital. There we go. So next, we'll just toss that.
Nice.
Knowledge. Knowing what to do next is probably one of the biggest challenges that a startup has today in trying to start and grow a business. And we're all good at something, but we don't necessarily know everything. Not even serial entrepreneurs know everything. And we all have lots of skills that we've learned at previous jobs in the corporate world or wherever we've been in the previous years before we got to this point in the journey. So as your startups grow, your needs change. And having access to expertise from a group of co-mentors can really be the differentiating factor in getting your business to the next level. In Wilmington, I'm actually a part of a small co-mentor group. We meet monthly. It's a handful of friends that come from different expertise backgrounds. And it has been the single biggest factor in helping me get unstuck and stay focused on things that I'm trying to do along the way. Because I don't have that huge network of people that I can tap into on a regular basis, I tap into the people that I know around me that have areas of expertise. There we go. So money. Money is that tricky topic that always comes up and always ends up having conflicting opinions. The reality is that investors are risk averse. They are not that thrilled usually about taking a risk on an early stage company or a first-time entrepreneur. So our solution to that is through community-funded microgrants, using entrepreneurs and people in the startup community. The goal of this is to have a quarterly pitch competition, about 3 startups each quarter, that will give their pitch. Everybody in the audience that's there votes. One winner comes out, and with 100 people giving $100 each quarter, a $10,000 check can be written to that startup so that they can take that money to use for patents, prototypes, MVPs, marketing, you name it. Those things that can prevent them from having to take a full-time job and really build their business so that they can help build small businesses and create job growth within the community. Basically, the goal here is getting as many people as possible, giving just a little bit to make a really big impact locally. Keep forgetting to point it back there. There we go. Okay, so how can we market and expand beyond our limited communities where we are from Wilmington? I came up here so that I could talk to you all this morning, but really what we need are people like community leaders, us, the entrepreneurs, and givers of self. And I have a few examples here just to give you guys a good feel of where I'm coming from and how we can really build this thing. First, Jim Roberts, many of you probably know him. He's not here this morning, but he has been absolutely vital to the Wilmington entrepreneur community. Without him, it would be far more siloed than it is, where people are constantly competing to get entrepreneurs into their world so that they can build up the community on their behalf, as opposed to trying to bring everybody together. So Jim has been a vital part of Wilmington. There's plenty in Raleigh, there's plenty in other cities, and those are the people that are the hub that entrepreneurs gravitate toward. Next, if it'll go, there we go. Go back one. Well, I'll just leave it up there so you can see my grandmother. Second are entrepreneurs. It's us. We need to be willing to share our knowledge and be willing to communicate and collaborate with our peers to help grow the ecosystem here. It's not just about us, it's about trying to grow our community together. Some of us may be in competition in the same markets and verticals, but in reality, we're all here doing different things together, and if we do that together, we can really make a big change. And so lastly, my grandmother, she did pass away a few years ago, but as I was growing up, she constantly reiterated a phrase to me, to be a giver of yourself. All the time, I would always hear that growing up, and it stuck with me growing up and obviously today, because that's what brings me here today. We're all so fortunate in what we have, and we've been provided with so many opportunities that we really should look at giving back in any possible way that we can to help others along their journey, by sharing, by communicating with others, by offering your help and advice. Because your expertise somewhere else, even though you may not think it's expertise, is, and that's something that can really help somebody get to the next level. Ricardo, you're in the way of the, there we go. Okay, so how can you guys help? There's a lot going on here. I just threw it all up there so that you could see it, but just like I said, community organizers, if you guys are aware of these people and want to put me in touch with them, I would really appreciate that, because those, like I said, are the hubs where people will gravitate toward and be able to join into this community to then expand their community beyond the regions of a city or a town. Local influencers in the startup world, same deal. They are influencers. They are looking to help communities as best they can, and this is a great way to do it. And lastly, you. Be active. Be a giver of yourself. Share your journey. Really let your momentum in whatever you're doing. Hey, I wrote my first blog post on my own today. Anything. share those little bits of information, because those are the things that fuel and motivate others to keep going. It's those little teeny tiny bits of momentum that people need to really keep going. And then lastly, be willing to co-mentor. I didn't really think that I was going to be able to offer great advice to other people, but it turns out sometimes I get one right. So any expertise that you have, or just to be a sounding board for somebody, is hugely, hugely valuable. And I would definitely recommend that anybody offer to do it. You don't have to be the only mentor. You can be a mentor in a marketing segment or in an IT segment, doesn't matter. And then lastly, just the takeaways. We're in this together. It's not a competition. Of course, we're all vying for the same dollars a lot of times. But if we can keep propping each other up in the community, we can build our startup community locally and regionally and nationally and connect to one another so that it makes it much less difficult to build those communities and get that network access. Be a giver, which I've gone over. You can't expect change without being a part of it. And then lastly, tech is just the beginning. It's real conversations in real life using that technology that'll bring us together. So having not been here, I wouldn't get a chance to meet any of you unless I were here. And hopefully I'll make some great connections today afterward, but it is in real life that those connections really take it to the next level. And lastly, this is my contact information. If you do want to download the app, there have been a couple people that, as of yesterday, had requested to join the Raleigh community, so I appreciate that, the 4 of you that have done that. You can download the app on either Marketplace, and then if you go to RTP, it's IRLYBIRD. In real life, you build relationships that deliver. That's what the acronym is. /add, and you can join the community there. You can say that you want to be, you're just an entrepreneur in the community. You want to be part of these micro grants. You want to mentor people. Maybe you're an investor and you want to get tapped into the wider range of audiences. And so you can check that out and check out the app. And I'm happy to show it to anybody or talk about it afterwards. And with that, I'll take any questions.
We're going to be running microphone now. We're going to try to use.
I'm loud also, so if somebody wants to, maybe the ball.
We're going to do our best to deploy
The
the cue
ball.
ball today. So, thanks again. I'll just pause to thank our sponsors again. Obviously, the Frontier, who provides our space. Muddy Dog for our coffee that we all enjoy every week. Family Financial Services, who funds our MailChimp mail list. And now Imperative Product Operations, who have provided us with our cue ball. So if it works, the idea for those of you who have not seen this before, it's a tossable microphone. The founder has decided to keep company headquarters here in the Triangle. He presented here at 1 Million Cups, was on Shark Tank, and is off and running and scaling. So we're really pleased to be able to have one of these. Why don't we go ahead and start with the regular microphone first, if we need to. And everybody pay close attention, because you might need to come do this next time. I'll put it together.
Any questions?
That
one doesn't work.
I'll just yell. It sort of works. I'll just be extra.
All right, we'll start with the questions back there. And I would just ask you to stand, just because we may not be able to hear you very well on this side.
I like the ball because it means you have to really pay attention to questions.
We'll try, yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So question, I'm also in the process of starting a thing, and we're in the kind of backlash against online space. Do you feel like there's a lot of, are you hearing a lot of backlash against like, yeah, we can solve everything online, and I see you're trying to push the in real life side?
Yeah, so I haven't really heard any backlash about it. I think we're at a time, even older entrepreneurs, older than I am. I mean, I grew up with a computer from a small age, roughly small age. But I think people are just used to it. We're used to being online. Those of us that are a little bit older are less likely to just share anything. You know, I'm much more hesitant about what I share online. But the idea is not to share, you know, your most privileged secrets necessarily, but to share your journey to help pick other people up and give them little bits of wisdom, give updates to the community, which is sort of self-marketing, if you will, to the other entrepreneurs in the community to say, hey, we just had an article published in the Business Journal or something like that. And it's a way to use social media to help narrow the focus in the entrepreneurship and small business space, while then using that to leverage connections so that you can make those real life connections and meet people that can help elevate you to the next level necessarily.
So you talk about this great idea of organizing people around communities, but how do you envision communities changing as they expand or get bigger, where perhaps, let's say you're an entrepreneur or a startup and you're visiting another community, how would you get access to those kind of resources?
Right, so right now, obviously I'm in the early stages of this, so it's just Wilmington, and now as of today, you know, moving into the Raleigh-Durham area. Obviously, depending on who you talk to, you can offend people by how you phrase this area, whether it's RTP or Raleigh or Durham or the Triangle or, you know, 50 other things. I lived here 15 years ago, so I am fully aware of all of that. The goal behind it is to connect those communities so that you're not siloed and you can seamlessly connect to those other communities. So to briefly get technical, it's a multi-tenant system. So as soon as you were to say, oh, okay, I'm in Wilmington for a conference, let me connect to the Wilmington one. You then automatically get full access and historical access to what's been going on in Wilmington or in whatever community you may be for that, you know, day or week, or you just moved there or something like that. You can also remove yourself from those tiers. So I don't know why you would necessarily, because that's extra people to connect with, but it's all seamless and most importantly not siloed. You know, that is the biggest problem with Slack. I'm part of 5 or 6 different Slack groups for various things, from business to personal stuff, and you can't go beyond that. You can switch between them, but there's no crossover without inviting somebody to the other group, and then it's totally separate. Yes, you're in Slack, but they're totally separate. With RTP, as soon as you join another community, you're going to start seeing everything in the social feed that people would post to that particular community. You would be able to look up and connect with people in that community. And if you're not in that community, you won't see those people. You won't see those things. So that's the idea, is building out that community, hopefully, you know, at a gradual pace as your startup gets to that point where you can then move to that next level because you've graduated out of your local community. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted a question on that. Can you tell, 2 questions, I guess.
Sure.
First of all, can you tell me how you differentiate from LinkedIn and all the groups there? That's one thing. And then, is your focus North Carolina and just putting the communities there and keep a concentration on a micro basis?
So first, LinkedIn is, it's okay. It depends on how you use it. LinkedIn has become more of a Facebook style tool to a lot of people. When I start getting connections from people that I knew in high school that are hairdressers, which I clearly do not need, that are across the country, that doesn't really help me from a business standpoint. Of course, I have had great connections through LinkedIn and continue to do so. It's a great way to meet people through that community, but it is just people throwing stuff out there, and it's not really cohesive around business anymore. It is, but there's people with all these different connections. You have to sift through a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of noise around that. But it is a great tool. I mean, that's where a lot of the profile fields for RTP would end up coming from, because you're ending up, you know, you're giving your experience, your resume type of things, you know, what you're good at, how you can help people. Those are the things that you're going to want to bring into the community so that you can tell people how you can help them, or how they may be able to help you as well. And then the second question, just like any other startup, I'm growing it locally, start in my backyard, move out to Raleigh, and then build beyond. The idea is to connect communities seamlessly. So there is absolutely the ability to have a community in California or anywhere else in the country or the world that if it's established and you go there or you want to connect to somebody there, you can join that community. And you could be a fly on the wall and just see what's going on in there. Or you can go and then reach out to those people, pre-connect with them, research in a similar way to LinkedIn, but you can grow virtually and seamlessly. Did that answer your question, or as far as building out?
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm supposed to talk directly into this?
There you go.
So I feel like I'm talking Wilson. Wilson, help me. But anyway, so the question I have is, as an entrepreneur, there's a whole industry out there waiting to support you. Some of that support's great. I need an Amazon.com. 200 users have used this. 76% of them give it 5 stars. I need to know what other people say about the services that they use. Do you have that feature?
As far as reviews for how earlybird were to function, or
No, about a particular person who's giving advice, or this person says, I'm an expert in finance, okay?
Sure.
So 10 people have used them and said, yes, they are, they're really good.
Yeah, that feature is in the works as far as building a reputation for somebody. That is a great question. Of course, somebody can have a great reputation and still give you shitty advice for you. Sure. So it really does fall back to you to sift through that information, because talking to 2 separate people, you'll get 2 different pieces that are conflicting. 2 different conflicting pieces of advice. So it is up to you to sift through that, but obviously having that reputation score of saying this person isn't just talking for the sake of talking, they're coming from real experience and giving me good advice. That's in the works, hopefully in the next month or so.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so the way this works is we don't bring it to you. Once you've finished, you toss it to the next person. So we've got somebody waiting on this side. There was somebody in the back. We may have to.
It's about to get real.
What's it called when you throw the ball to the
I'm just going to him. I don't throw that far away.
Oh, you're asking me a baseball
So
question?
my question is basically, I didn't see the slide for it, for the how much revenue you have generated, how many users you have right now. So could you talk a bit about that, and how many places you are present in right now, other than Wilmington and now in Raleigh?
Right, so I'm just expanding into Raleigh by being here today. Within Wilmington, I'm in the process of just getting users onto the system for specifically the entrepreneur community. There's a charity group that I'm a part of in Wilmington as well, and we've brought the users onto there. So they're a separated tier, so they don't see any of the entrepreneur-related stuff, but can still use all the features for social communication, chat, all those things, seeing events on a calendar. But it's a very low user base right now. I'm just getting it started and off the ground.
Okay, toss it behind you to whomever was waiting. Whoever's waiting, stand up to receive it, or maybe.
I have a question. As far as I heard, you said you're looking for startups, and you said just now, not too long ago, you said you're starting your startup at the back of your house and all that stuff. In terms of your connection right now, to be very supportive, you know what I'm saying? Most of people here, you know what I'm saying, they don't volunteer for free, you know what I'm saying? They have to get paid, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you're going to look for grant $10,000. I've seen most of people who do startups, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I might be wrong. Almost 90% of them, they tend to fail, and they're coming back with another thing and all that stuff.
Sure.
My advice, you know what I'm saying, is a step where you can get some mentors, you know what I'm saying, to mentor you. But most of these, some of these kids these days, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, which I understand, you know, there's about millions, but there's only 1 or 2 Facebook and all that stuff. As we usually tell people, hey, why don't you just continue working and all that stuff? Like you say, $10,000.
Well,
If you do a crowdfunding, you know what I'm saying, do crowdfunding.
well, that is the idea behind the microgrants, is that they are crowdfunded. You don't get equity in the startups. It's all around the charity of wanting to see your fellow entrepreneurs in the community build their startup. I mean, I could give you examples for days of people that have had to take full-time jobs because they just can't afford to continue to fund what they're doing, even though they have great ideas. So it's not me putting the dollars out there for that. In fact, I plan on having it remain completely free for entrepreneurs because our dollars are best suited trying to pursue what we're trying to achieve with our startups. And a lot of times that's legal fees and marketing and prototypes and things like that. And I'm not trying to just find a service to charge entrepreneurs. I am highly against that because there are too many predatory people in the entrepreneur world saying, oh yeah, let's get together and chat, and then they're trying to sell you something while you're just trying to make a good connection. So I'm highly opposed to that. As far as funding it, community sponsors are a great way to, I think, both help me to pay for things and provide value to the community, so that the Chamber of Commerce or a place like the Frontier could be a community sponsor, or potentially service organizations. So everybody needs a CPA. A lot of times we need accountants or lawyers, or even staffing firms. So I need an MVP, so let me go to Tech Systems or something like that and get to those resources that entrepreneurs will need, again, on a merit-based rating scale as well.
No, what I'm saying to you, my advice, you know, some of us we do crowdfunding, you know, we help out, you know, because we've looked into some of this stock market, it's not working out for us. Some of us we believe in some of this startup. But what I'm saying is giving up money, you know what I'm saying? I expect something to share in the thing and all that stuff. As an organization, because we have some of that in our neighborhood where we look, hey, we can fund this thing and I think we can fund. Do you have a strategy where you can give shares or what? You know, because some of us are looking to take some of our retirement money and see, hey, there's a life in this, that. What are you talking about? That
Yeah.
you don't expect anything from, I mean, it's going to take our money, you know.
And that's a personal choice to not, you know, if you don't want to give because you don't necessarily get the Kickstarter model where you're getting products or credit or something like that, that's totally personal choice. I mean, this may be a completely awful model and not work, but I'm doing a similar thing just for charitable organizations where it's a similar model and you're giving money and $10,000 a quarter to a charity. And in today's tax system that we have, there's no way I'm itemizing my deductions enough so that I can write off all those charitable deductions. So I'm doing it because it feels good. I'm trying to do it to help bolster the community, and it's not for everybody. You know, at the end of the day, that's what it is. If a startup says, this is great, I'm going to build my prototype and I'm going to give everybody that donated to my pitch competition, to the micro grant, a discount or something like that, then, you know, that's entirely up to them, but it's fully charitable at this point. And I'd like it to remain that way because we should want to try to prop each other up and help each other out.
At the back, right?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm going to flip it around. From your perspective, in 2019, if you're completely successful, you service, you know, the entrepreneurs and the communities the way that you've talked about. I just want to get a better feel for your business model. How does your company make out in 2019 if you're famously successful? Is it a percentage of the micro grants, or is it something else, or a combination?
Good question. I don't expect to take a piece of the micro grants. As I said, the goal right now, of course, again, I talked about pitfalls and pivots, so it could change, but my plan at this point is to rely on community sponsors, which already exist out there. That idea is not new. And then also service providers that are sponsors as well, that are going to and can provide services to entrepreneurs that we need anyway, things that we typically outsource to other people who are highly skilled in that area, like lawyers and CPAs and things like that. So that's really the business model at this point is entrepreneurs shouldn't have to pay for this. We should use it to try to lift each other up and try to move the ball forward as a community.
But you make money how, right?
Well, the sponsorship, whether it would be a service sponsorship or a community sponsorship, would come to the business, to RTP. And then as those communities grow, obviously there's more, more opportunities for sponsorship in new communities, and depending on how big and broad the communities are, there's more opportunities for sponsorship. You know, in the Raleigh-Durham area, there's lots of staffing agencies because there's a lot of talent around here. But in Wilmington, I think there's an arm of, a tech systems out there, but it's not as big as here, so some of those opportunities are less than here.
Thank you.
Hi, Keith.
What have we met?
We have.
Yeah. You were at the new event, right? Yeah. Okay. Hi again. What I'm not getting, Keith, is really how well connected you are in Wilmington, if that's where you want to set it. There is an entrepreneurial community there. You're right, it's kind of dispersed, and sometimes communications isn't what it should be, but you got the ICE or CIE rather at UNCW. There's entrepreneurship programs in the university as well as Cape Fear Community College. Tech Mountain has got a list of mentors that'll kill a horse.
I'm one of them.
So,
yeah.
So you're connected with all these organizations?
I am.
I just wasn't getting that in the pitch.
Yeah, I didn't really go too much into my own background. I am a mentor at Tech Mountain. Tech Mountain has some competing entities in Wilmington, unfortunately, which helps to silo things, which was another reason that I started this journey. I was actually at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship when Jim was the director of that for another startup that I had started a few years ago, and had moved over to Tech Mountain. I'm now a mentor there. The different factions within Wilmington, and maybe Wilmington's unique, but I'm guessing it's not, is that everybody's trying to compete for these people. You know, everybody has their little, we all have our own egos of what we're trying to accomplish. But there are different factions within there. I am in communication with and connected to all of them, from new to the CIE to Tech Mountain. Those are really the only 3 that are out there. There's a couple others that are trying to emerge in that space. But again, we're then just separating one another. And what my goal is to try to bring people together and get them moving forward. And I wouldn't have gone down this path if I didn't feel that I were as connected, at least in Wilmington, as I am. And then connecting to people like Jim in Wilmington is huge because he has such a broad network, and I know many of those people, but I can guarantee, knows more people than I do, even in Wilmington. And it's reaching out to those people and utilizing their...
All right, we've got a question right there in the middle.
Okay, so out of curiosity, when you were talking about 100 people, $100 quarterly.
Sure.
I actually do a lot of support of small businesses, especially on like Patreon. And so what I'll do is I will either pledge for, each of their creations or on a monthly, but I tend to do it in really micro amounts. Like I'll do $10 a month. Or are you planning to allow for that kind of inclusion for people to say, hey, I can commit to a cup of coffee a week, $3 a week or whatever, in order to meet those goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I figured why not shoot for the stars with the 100 people, $100 a month. That oftentimes is a little bit more than people are willing to stomach for somebody that they inherently think might fail, even if they think they have a great pitch. Hey, I don't know that I want to give $100 to this. Realistically, I think $50 a quarter is probably more in the wheelhouse of people that I've polled about their appetite for wanting to join this program. Because $200 is really not that much to try to see the future of your community grow. And it's widely expansive here in this area, but in Wilmington it's not, and it is a constant struggle to try to get people to support one another and to tap into resources, and people are fighting for the same local resources with some great ideas. They really do. And if they, even $5,000, to me, I think that I would do a lot with $5,000. A lot of people balk at that and say, what are you gonna do with $5,000 or $10,000? You know, I need $100,000. Well, maybe, but there are a lot of people that need or could use $5,000 so that they can work for maybe a month or two straight without having to get a full-time job and really turn that corner, especially with access to quality resources within the community for mentors and things like that, where you can get advice on how to, okay, I have this $5,000 or $10,000, now what? I really need a prototype. Hey, does anybody out here have a prototype, you know, have prototyping skills or that background? Let me go research that. Oh, I found somebody, let me connect with them. And then you can use Earlybird to then make that connection through the app and then in real life to have that connection and move forward with it where they can help you, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for probably one more question.
I'll take one.
Rick? Okay, well, two final, Rick, I'm sorry, you've got to use the mic.
I don't look like a bowler like Bill did with that shirt.
You can do it.
Well, I was gonna ask you, and I don't know, maybe I missed it. Your .org, are you a nonprofit?
No, that's just my own personal email address. I use them both. They all come to the same endpoint of Gmail. 8-Leaf Clover is my company, and currently Earlybird sits under that. It's a software development company, is 8-Leaf Clover, so that's where Earlybird is.
Have you thought about working as a nonprofit? Taking donations?
Yes. The thing I don't like about nonprofits a lot of times is the amount of money you have to raise just to be functional, and the administrative costs end up becoming a burden a lot of times. And I think that it's really better as a for-profit model.
Cool. I love the concept. Actually, I'd be more than willing to pay $100 to support a startup and be in the room with a bunch of people that are willing to pay $100. I think that's value right there. And these people are willing to write a check. So if you're really going to do business, that's a good situation to be in. But I wanted to ask you, what do you need from us? What can we do for you? I don't know if that came up earlier, if I missed it, but what can we help you out with?
Yeah, that was in one of the slides in there, and really it's being active in the community. I would love for all of you to download Earlybird, and once a week is not that bad. Go in there, say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I did in the last week, which does one of two things, or it does two things. It, one, helps to fuel other people by seeing your progress. It really motivates them to, oh, I better get my act together. I better stop, binging Netflix and get back to working a few extra hours a night. And two, it holds you accountable. You can set little mini milestones and goals for yourself, which is what we should all be doing anyway as entrepreneurs. But we can then just throw that little update, little one-sentence update into the app is enough to get things going. See how you feel about it. Be willing to co-mentor. Really be willing to offer advice to people. And then users, entrepreneurs in the community can search through the app and say, let me find the people that are willing to co-mentor. And then connect with you and say, oh, I see that you have marketing skills. I really need some marketing help. Do you think we could go grab a cup of coffee? Something like that. So I would encourage you to use it. Give me your feedback. It is an evolving piece of software. The profiling is evolving as well, where it's all data driven, so there's a lot of stuff behind it where it can be pretty much anything. Yeah, just take a look, give it a shot, hold yourself accountable, help motivate others to push their ball forward and build their business as well.
Okay, we have the final question in the back, Brett, and then. then
Brett
Rick.
Chambers. Really interesting idea.
Hold it up.
And the one thing that, when we were asking about the .org and all that, have you thought about B Corp? Because in some ways you kind of seem like the definition of what a B Corp is.
I'm not super familiar with the specifics of that, but we can talk afterwards if you'd like. I mean,
Don't talk to me, talk to your lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, my goal for it was to be a for-profit business, you know, to build this without really charging entrepreneurs, because I don't feel that is I don't perfect. I don't think that serves anybody really. I mean, those are the predatory service provider things that I don't like, and that I'm trying to avoid, you know, at all costs being. So right now, there are, you know, I'm just getting started with it, so there are no community sponsors at this point. But feel free to connect me to some if you know any.
All right, Keith, thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
We're really grateful that he made the trip up, and again, let's see what we can do to help you expand. Do we have any community announcements before we disperse? Way at the back. Who's got the microphone? All right, Brett, start off and then toss it this way, please.
Okay. They'll see me about this, Gretchen, there's an event over at UNC, October 11th, and it's about a STEM pitch competition. And they're looking for investors, entrepreneurs, and angels, all that stuff. So just come see me and I'll just send it over to you, okay?